For more than 5 years, Sudan has cried out from beneath the weight of a hijacked revolution, war, and hunger as the state slowly descended into chaos. With more than 15 million people internally displaced amid the clashes, the international community simply does not seem to care enough. In the halls of diplomacy, Sudan is often a headline, rarely a priority, and global powers declare concern, condemn atrocities, and pledge support. Yet their actions trail far behind their words, leaving millions wondering if they even care at all. Today, we speak with a Sudanese expert who once served in the government, an eyewitness to the country's slow descension into state collapse. Dr. Yassir Yousif is a consultant at the Africa Center for Strategic Studies. As an academician, he teaches law in Bahri University, in addition to his experience in the media sector in Sudan. Having served the Sudanese government before the revolution as a state governor and minister, his insight into the diplomatic mishaps Sudan has faced offers an insider view into the issue at hand. Together, we will discuss Sudan and its relationship with the international community. Stay with us. Thank you, Dr. Youssef, for agreeing to talk to Clashpoint from the revolution to today. How would you generally evaluate the international community's handling of the Sudanese revolution and the problems that it faced afterwards?
Thank you so much for having me today, and thank you for your audience. I'm so glad to speak to you to speak about Sudan and it is issues. Actually, before speaking about the Sudan and international community, let us draw a picture that what's happened in Sudan since 2020 till now. Because everything started there, started with what's so-called a revolution in 2019. Some people claiming that the revolution was happening in that year, but I think it is over simplification to consider what happened at that time as a revolution. Of course, the government had overthrown and the regime change had happened at that time, but there are still two crucial factors must be considered. The first one is that the lack of vision among the political faction that claimed to make the revolution at that time and champion the revolution. The second thing is the intensity of the foreign agendas that targeted Sudan and stood and stand against its people. These two crucial factors that affected the revolution and what saw the revolution. The what's so-called civilian government had failed politically and economically. In 2019, our economy in Sudan was the sixth largest in Africa. Today, we are nowhere near that ranking. I think the international community or the external entities that instigated some Sudanese to protest intending the revolution did nothing for Sudan after the falling of the previous regime. They just stood there watching the deterioration of our economy and decline of the country. Some countries exploited the Sudan weakness at that time to plunder and loot its resources, such as UAE and some other neighboring countries.
So, in your view, the international community, do they have a clear understanding of the Sudanese problem? Do they understand the internal dynamics? Or is it just they're moving in a direction that is actually detrimental to the country as a whole? Do you think they really understand Sudan?
Don't think for that much because the international community has long been in the false narrative, which promoted by some Sudanese small group of politicians, such as Taqaddum Alliance, which is metamorphosis to Sumud Alliance. That the what is going now in Sudan with the war is the internal matters between the two generals vying for power. The truth is an opposite, quite opposite, because a rebellion was launched by the faction within the national army attempting for seizing power with force. When their attempt failed, they waged a full scale of war across the country. The international community was influenced by the narrative of these small political groups for a long time. So this affect their response to the war. Affected their response to the situation in Sudan, to the humanitarian situation, to the political situation in Sudan.
So, in your view, there are things that are not very clear enough. So, in what aspects do you say they did not understand the Sudanese demands, and how do you say it? After the revolution, the international community and global powers actually wanted their own interests to be fulfilled instead of acting in favor of Sudan.
Yes, because some international community instigate some Sudanese to protest, pretending for revolution, and give them a promises that we are going to support you, we are going to support Sudanese people, but they did nothing about Sudan. What happened actually is that after the civilian government had formed with Dr. Abdullah Hamadok. Hamadok brought in the international mission under the Security Council Resolution 2524. This mission overstepped inside Sudanese conflict and unfortunately became a part of that internal conflict. And later, this mission called for what's so-called the framework agreement, which ultimately led to the war. Of course, this mission bears the responsibility for that war, but the greatest blame lies upon Hamadok and his government. After the war erupted 2023, we saw that the international communities they kept away from Sudan. Just the U.S. Has mediated after 1 month of the war beginning in Jeddah city in Saudi Arabia, but I don't think the efforts of the U.S. was effective and productive. So the war prolonging for now, we are approaching 3 years of the war. But fortunately, recently we saw that we have observed a shift from the U.S. discourse that supporting the army and condemning the RSF militia and calling for secession arming of the militia. I think on this point, particularly, they need to speak to the UAE that's supporting the militia, the RSF militia.
So, in your view, would you be correct to say, would I be correct to assume that the Sudanese people actually believe they have been betrayed by the international community, by the global powers? If this is the view of the people, would you confirm it? And if you do, why would the people believe specifically that they have been betrayed by the global community?
Of course, they believe that because when the revolution happened in Sudan, the people were waiting for the international community to help Sudan. As I stated, that the international community just stood and watching the deterioration of the Sudan economy. In that dilemma, the U.S., which was the most prominent actor in the Sudanese issues, took from the Sudan more than $300 million just to lift it from the list of countries sponsors of terrorism. And the other international community just stopped there and watching the Sudanese. They did nothing to help our economy, to help the Sudanese. Even when the war erupted, they didn't move quickly to stop this war and to mediate between between the South and the RSF militia.
At the same time, we see something else happening where people actually see the atrocities committed in a specific place and they react in a specific manner. We've seen other clashes in the world. Unfortunately, in the last few years, we've seen lots of crimes being committed, uh, crimes against humanity, including genocide in Gaza, and also a lot of destruction in places like Ukraine. So why would do you think the global reaction to the crimes being committed is not as loud as those that happened in Gaza or in Ukraine? Why don't we see the Sudanese uh, people dying every day, but they do not make it to the headlines of the major news outlets? And even if they do, it's just small coverage and nothing that they would give like much coverage to. Do you think Sudan is being ignored because it's a country in Africa, or is it because it doesn't have specific strategic um, benefits for the global powers? Why do you think the Sudanese have been ignored? And why do the people think they have been ignored? What's the understanding of the people of Sudan?
Absolutely, Sudan was ignored for a long time since the eruption of this war, more than 2 years 2 years ago. The international community left the country bleed silently and did nothing about stopping the war. I think there are two main reasons for that. The first one is that they think the Sudan does not have that interest they want, so they concentrate in other areas of the world. The second thing is that the narrative that was promoted by the some Sudanese faction claiming that this is an internal issue and we want the international community to be aware, not to support the South, not to support the national army. But the atrocities that the world have seen in al-Fashir, I think the significant factor of it that it has awakened the international conscience, but we are still far away from the serious steps to stop these massive killings, to stop these crimes. What the world have just seen in the Fashik is what the militias have been perpetrating since the war beginning 2 years ago in many areas, wide areas in Sudan. The sex violence, sex crimes, cleansing, and genocide. It was committed in wide areas in Sudan. But now I think what happened in Al-Fashir has awakened the global conscience. But as I said, the Sudanese people is waiting for actions, action to stop this war, action to designate the militia as a terrorist group, action to support the legitimacy in Sudan, which is represented by the South Sudanese armed forces and the Sudan government.
What happened in Al Fashar uh, in the last few weeks? Do you think it's any different from the crimes that were committed in the last few years during the clashes in Sudan? What makes it any different from some of the other human rights violations in Sudan?
Actually, it is not different since the eruption of this war in Khartoum, in Al Jazeera state, in Al Sinnar state. The militia has committed a massive crimes of genocide and crimes against humanity. But at that time, the world was not ready to listen to the Sudanese people, was not ready to see the blood that the crime is committed against the crimes committed against the Sudanese people. As I said, that now the significant factor in the crimes in al-Fashir that it awoken the world conscience. We saw a wide protest around the world that condemning the militia crimes. But this is not the first one. The militia committed a massive crimes against Sudan. It's everywhere in Sudan. Now, what we need that is not to give the criminals any kind of immunity to escape from the justice. Of course, the Sudan government launched committees to investigate these crimes, and also I think the ICC is not far away from this case. The Sudanese people is working the international community to contribute and to help the Sudan government to bring those criminals to the justice.
Okay, so now let's come to the United Nations, and also some other organizations that are working with the United Nations on an international level. Do you think they have done enough or near enough to handle the situation in Sudan? And how has the actions have transformed over the years from the start of the revolution, the alleged revolution, and until now? What have they been doing? And if you were given a chance to summarize what the international community has done in the last few years, how would you summarize it?
In the field of humanitarian aid, I think they tried to do something, but generally speaking, I don't think the role of the United Nations was ineffective in Sudan, given that the role of the U.S. wielded in the crisis. Uh, we saw that the report of the or we consider the report of the UN experts panel that earlier in this war stated that the UAE is supporting the militia and fueling the war in Darfur and in many areas in Sudan. Nothing yet was done. Furthermore, the Security Council itself issued a resolution 2736 calling the RSF to lift its siege from al-Fashid. The militia did not just ignore this resolution, but did an opposite when they stormed the city and committed a genocide and atrocities against the civilians.
So, was it symbolic what the UN has done, or was it, for example, genuine, but in actuality it failed to do anything? Was it just genuine but ineffective, or was it just deliberately ineffective? How would you characterize the action of the international community?
I think they have nothing to do. As I said, the American efforts in the crisis that, when the war started, many friends that come to Sudan and they want to mediate and to stop this war from the beginning. But the Americans said that, no, stop every effort and we are going to launch get the platform, and every effort must be come with get the efforts. So this clumped the UN and the other. So this is stop the UN and the other friends to do anything. I don't think they have an opportunity to do an effective something in Sudan. The role of the US was the biggest one and the most effective in Sudan.
Okay, so now let's come to the most important question. Do you believe Sudan is a proxy battleground for global powers? Uh, is it in the middle of all this problem because of its own Sudanese problems, or is this because outside powers are playing around with the country and trying to tamper with the dynamics? Why is Sudan in trouble?
Yeah, the international community is there. The proxy war is there in Sudan. Since the starting of this war, we saw the intervention of the UAE supporting the RSF with logistic, money, weapons, and fueling the war in Sudan. They need our resources. They have looted our resources, gold and other resources. And also, the Americans themselves, they are worried about Sudan and interested in Sudan for many issues, such as combating terrorism and migration, and Red Sea security, Israeli security, and they are concerned about the Russian expansion in Africa, as well as China. So the conflict over resources is there, the conflict over influence is there, the conflict over the political concerns also is there. So you can say it is a proxy war going in Sudan.
So can you expand a little bit more? What are what does everybody want from Sudan? What are their specific interests in the country, especially the ones that support this militia? Is it just the resource that you just mentioned, or do we have anything else behind it?
It's not just a resource. Yeah, the main issue is the resource for some countries such as UAE, Americans themselves, and also the other international community. But Sudan is have a very fantastic geographical location. So the Red Sea security, Israeli security also is there. So you can say it is a conflict of resources battle, but also there is security issues, terrorism issues, migration issues, and also the battle between the prominent actors in Sudan, Americans, Russians, and also China.
Do you see accountability in the horizon in the years to come? Do you think the people that are committing these crimes will somehow be responsible and stand before a judge to accept their sentences, or to see a day of justice descend in Sudan?
This is extremely important. The criminals that are being committing crimes against Sudanese must not have any opportunity to escape from the justice. They have the international community and the Sudan government should bring them to the courts and to the justice. We saw these crimes has been repeated time and time in Sudan. So what the Sudanese people need now is not giving these perpetrators any chance to escape away from from being from being brought from not give them any opportunity to escape from the punishment. They have the international community and the Sudan government are bringing them to the justice, and I believe that soon or later they will be brought to the justice.
Yeah, but is that probable? Like, do you see that happening in the coming few years, or are they just going to get away with it? I know you strongly feel that they should be held accountable, but do you see that happening in the coming years?
I hope that the shift that we have observed in the U.S. Discourse condemning the militia, and the foreign minister Mark Rubio stated that if the designation of militia for as a terrorist group it helped the solving the problem, the American can do it. So I hope that this must help the Sudan government to do so. Also, the Human Rights Council now involved in the matter and launched the investigative committee to come to Darfur and Sudan as general to investigate. Also, I think the ICC now is investigating the case, and the case is clear. In my view, we don't need any investigation because everything is committed in front of cameras. Everything is committed in the eyes of the international community. So I hope that all these efforts must come together and bring the perpetrators to the justice domestically and internationally.
Dr. Yassir Yousif, thank you for talking to Clashpoint.
Thank you so much.
As battles reshape cities and civilians become targets, the hypocrisy of the international order stands exposed. Everyone is watching, but few are acting. Our conversation is a reminder that silence is a choice, and history always remembers those who chose it. And as we close this conversation, let it be a reminder that neutrality in the face of injustice is complicity, and silence in the face of suffering is not neutrality, it's actually a verdict. Thank you for watching.